statesman versus, I guess you could call it a fake man, because last week we had Prince William definitely acting as a statesman. He was there representing the British government, his father, the king, at the D-Day memorials there on Omaha Beach. Prince William was surrounded by some of the movers and shakers of the world, including US President Joe Biden. We also had President Zelensky of Ukraine, other monarchs, King Wilhelm Alexander, Queen Maxima, King Philippe, we had King Frederick, we had Grand Duke Henry, we had Prince Albert. Like, so many royals were at that event to commemorate what had happened 80 years ago. And Prince Harry, and you could also say by extension Meghan Markle, are just sort of looking rather bad and really exemplifying their cosplay royal role, because Harry and Meghan are very much implying that they want to be on the international stage like that. They want to be taken seriously as statespeople. The problem is, of course, is they have no power, they have no authority, and they really have nothing to offer the rest of the world. And so, how can Harry and Meghan even hope to compete at that level? If they have nothing to offer, then maybe a connection with the Archwell Foundation, which is just sort of a piddly little organization, all things considered. Bill Gates can obviously command an attention, but that's because he is an entrepreneur that created a multi-billion dollar, maybe even $1 trillion company. I don't really know which companies are up in the $1 trillion range. And obviously, Harry and Meghan are not there. And so, how are Harry and Meghan even thinking in their minds that they could hope to compete with Prince William? Because he is definitely becoming a mover and shaker in the world. Meanwhile, Harry and Meghan are just moving and shaking, hoping anyone pays attention to them along the way. And so, we are going to just talk about this today. But if you guys haven't been to Royal News Network before, my name is Brittany. I provide compelling royal commentary. So, please hit that subscribe button if you'd like to know more about the royal family, Harry and Meghan, all the drama going on, and everything behind the scenes. I would be more than happy to give you guys some great explanations. And I also try on this program and then on also the Crown Report to provide you with some better context for what royals do. Because one of the big things I find in royal watching and royal commentating is that most people don't actually know what royals do. And because of that, there is so much ignorance that exists in the space that there's so much misinformation. Because today, and this is a bit off topic, but I think it's still really important. I was looking and I happened to see the hashtag Where is Kate was barely trending with like 1,200 posts. Now that's still quite a lot. And I was looking through the things and I was like, that's just incredibly awful that people are continuing to do that. But two, people don't even know enough about how royals are treated to understand why there's probably not a picture of Catherine that's hitting the internet. I don't think they just simply understand, because their understanding of royalty is celebrity. And I'm going to explore that topic a bit more in the Crown Report, because I really want the Crown Report to be sans Harry and Meghan for the most part. And so we're going to talk about Prince William more there as a statesman. But what I really wanted to do in this video is compare just what Harry and Meghan are trying to do and failing and what William can do. Because Harry and Meghan, again, they seem to fail in the broader scope of what their role is, because Harry and Meghan obviously left the royal family. And when you do that, you leave a lot of the perks behind with you. And what Harry and Meghan really wanted to do, and I think really what existed in Meghan's mind when she got married, is that her and Harry were going to be essentially sort of king and queen, or president and vice president of the Commonwealth. And they sort of got this idea from Harry and then Meghan being president and vice president of the Queen's Commonwealth Trust. And this is a youth organization that Her Majesty started to encourage those within all the Commonwealth nations who are younger and get them involved in various activities. And so Harry and Meghan really, I think, felt like this was their world and that they could claim it and put a stake in it. Because if you remember, Meghan Markle on her wedding day put all the flowers of the Commonwealth along the edge of her veil, which I was like, are you out of your mind? Because obviously the Commonwealth, they share a history with the United Kingdom, but why most people join is for the economic benefits, let's be honest. They don't join for the monarchy. But I think Meghan in her mind really did think that, oh my gosh, if I start this, if I connect this here, like, we can connect to the Commonwealth, we can be these movers and shakers, we can have more authority, you could say, than the monarchy itself, because we can be president and vice president of the Commonwealth, even though that really wasn't their role. I think in her mind, that's what they were going to be. And obviously, as well, just as a reminder, the only royal within the royal family who has put the flowers of the Commonwealth on a dress is Her Majesty the Queen at her coronation. And it was only, I think, 8 flowers at the time, because it was quite small. And obviously, the context of the Commonwealth changed because it was really an outcropping of the colonial history with the United Kingdom. All the Commonwealth nations were formerly colonies, The United States is obviously a big exception to that, but not everybody joins, and we were a bit different, but they can join the Commonwealth and have great trade benefits between the countries. And that's really a big part of it. Obviously, there's a Commonwealth Games and a couple other things that keep this connection together. And Her Majesty the Queen, which was really great, wanted to turn this shared history, which was oftentimes traumatic, not great, into something very positive. And that's why she so encouraged and cultivated the Commonwealth. And I think that's fantastic because, yes, you do share this history, but how do you take this horrible, awful thing and make it something good or make it something better than what it was? And that was really what Her Majesty was striving for, is trying to take this negative thing and turn it into something more positive. But Harry and Meghan had grander ambitions. That was to essentially become the figureheads of it. Now, we don't know this for sure, but they focused an awful lot on the Commonwealth in their reality TV show. They were very much gunning for this because Harry and Meghan obviously knew one thing, which was that barring a absolute catastrophe, they were never going to be king and queen. Now, I think Meghan still misunderstood what her role would be marrying the sixth in line to the throne, because I really do think she believed that she could have a lot more control over the system, or that she would be treated as an equal to Catherine, Camilla, and basically every other female in the royal family. And that's just simply not true. Blood matters in royal circles, and hierarchy matters. Those are the two big things. If you're not higher up on the hierarchy, or if you ain't blood, you're just not as important. And that was what Meghan's realm was going to be. But again, her and Harry were really gunning for the Commonwealth. They put a lot of emphasis there. And one of their last engagements that they held before officially leaving the royal family was, I believe, with members of the Commonwealth. I'm struggling to remember exact date of when, but I remember Meghan had this weird peach dress on. Harry was rolling around on a sofa. And that was one of their final engagements as royal, was connected to the Commonwealth. And I think they truly believed that they can continue this Commonwealth trajectory. And in their minds, as they continued this Commonwealth trajectory, because they very much put on their website that they wanted the Commonwealth to be a big part of what they did, is that eventually they would be these movers and shakers. Because Meghan Markle, I think, has always been gunning for some sort of global role in some way. She wanted to be part of UN Women. She wanted to be a UN Commonwealth ambassador. She has wanted this grand vision for herself and her role in the world. But unfortunately, the reality is, a lot of times you need clout for that kind of role. And at the time, Meghan was gunning for it. Nobody really knew what Suits was. Nobody knew who she was. So she really wasn't going to get that role. And as well, you also need to be somebody who's generally easy to work with. And it seemed like Meghan just has never really been that person. We have report after report after report is that, yes, she can be nice to some people, but if you are considered lower than her in terms of, the hierarchy, ironically, and other things, she does not generally treat you very well. And so I think organizations took a back seat. And Harry and Meghan, again, were thinking that if they could get this Commonwealth thing together, they could achieve the things that they could not via the royal system, which is to be seen as statespeople. They want to be, again, movers and shakers. They want to be enacting policy, changing the world. I mean, so much of their propaganda has always been about, we're going to change the world. Our love is earth shattering, all these sorts of things. And personally, I never like those kind of things. Anybody who tells you they're going to save the world is lying, because number one, we can't save the world. Let's be honest. I mean, I'm a Christian, so I only believe salvation can be achieved through Jesus Christ. So Meghan Markle is not that person. Although I was reading a tweet one day where somebody really was comparing Meghan Markle to Jesus Christ, and that was beyond frightening. But anybody who tells you that kind of stuff is just delusional, because it's not going to happen, bar being an actual president of something like an actual country, or being somebody like, you could say, Bill and Melinda Gates, creating multi-billion-dollar foundations because you have multi-billion dollars. And Harry and Meghan don't have that. What they have is essentially a defunct royal title. They go around calling themselves the Duke and Duchess of Sussex without any authority behind it. Yes, that title is, you could argue, impressive. You could say some people are like, oh my gosh, they are a Duke and Duchess or Prince and Princess, whatever. And they get all excited about that. But the reality is, and we see this again exemplified in this recent gathering at Normandy, is that real royals get invited to real events. Nobody was ever, ever, ever going to invite Prince Harry and Meghan Markle as the founders of Archewell to a D-Day celebration, regardless of Harry's connection with the Invictus Games. That don't mean squat. It doesn't mean squat. Why? Because this is a gathering of international leaders. This is a gathering of statesmen and women. This is a gathering of people who have actual authority and power to change the world. And Harry and Meghan, despite all their strange and best efforts, come nowhere near that. They are nowhere near that level of authority and gravitas. And so when we see Prince William there, he is there representing not only his father as king, and his father, of course, is head of state. And I think in these videos in the Crown Report, I tried to encourage people to understand what the head of state is. Because again, this royalty and celebrity thing has been mixed so much because of Harry and Meghan. People miss out on the context of what royals actually do, which is that they represent their government. And they are essentially a figurehead of it. They don't enact policy, and sometimes they don't vote, and sometimes they do. But because there was kind of an interesting case in Belgium, which I'll cover in the Crown Report, but they have this authority and power that most people just don't have. And so when the invitation went out to attend this, yes, I believe, because I know at least the Prime Minister of Denmark was there in addition to the King, is that most of the royals went there because they really are the faces of the country. And so I was looking at it and it was quite interesting because the D-Day, all the royals who were there had troops that landed on the beaches of Normandy, with a couple of exceptions, I should say. I should say a couple of exceptions for very minor countries, but I'm sure they were part of it. And obviously, Monaco as well is very close to France. And so that's different. Luxembourg as well, very small, not really, I don't think any troops there. But in terms of big countries, we have Norway, Denmark, Belgium, the Netherlands. We have obviously the United Kingdom, and which encompassed as well the Commonwealth nations like Canada. And of course, the United States was one of the biggest participants of the invasion in addition to other countries too. They weren't the only countries. But because the royals oftentimes have connections to the military, have connections to the government and everything, they were invited there. And William, again, had a special role here because not only was he representing his father, but the Prime Minister of the UK actually didn't attend. And so William was representing not only his father, but the entire UK nation and government. That is huge. That is massive. And William looked like a statesman. I think it helps that he's tall. I think it really does help when you're a statesperson if you're really tall. And so he just looked absolutely fabulous there, mingling with these world leaders. He met with, and spoke with Joe Biden very briefly, Vladimir Zelensky, the King and Queen of the Netherlands, Belgium. He met with all of these different people at this event because this was an event of world leaders. This was an event of people who are there in their capacity to represent their various countries. Harry and Meghan are not that. But I don't think they really truly understand that they're not that. Because Harry and Meghan constantly, especially with this recent visit to Nigeria, really were trying to cosplay royalty. And the Nigerian government, of course, is complicit in letting them do that. But Harry and Meghan represent nothing but Archwell and I guess their own production company, Archwell Productions, or whatever else they have lined up. They've been rather quiet the last couple of weeks, maybe in a little bit of shame after the disastrousness of the Nigeria tour, because they really do look foolish after a while because they offer these countries absolutely nothing. They're not like William. They can't represent the UK government. They have really no connection to it except for a tenuous one via his father. He is essentially like any other UK citizen, which is how he should be treated and how he should recognize himself. They shouldn't be greeted by the military in that little ceremony Harry participated in because he represents no military. He has no military. He has no role in the military anymore. And I really feel like this is where things could get quite interesting because of the Invictus Games and because it has troops from several different countries, including countries with monarchs. You almost get the impression sometimes that Prince Harry really truly does believe that he can utilize, or that Meghan believes they can utilize and springboard off the Invictus Games to become international leaders, which is a bit delusional in itself because, yes, it is a competition game. Yes, royals and heads of state can attend it. But Harry and Meghan, unfortunately, as well, have made themselves very, very toxic. And as time goes on, that toxicity grows and grows, especially as the relationship with the royal family is ever more damaged. Because let's be honest, the latest Invictus Games are going to be in Vancouver. Yes, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau may attend, a competition, may go to the opening ceremony, but he's not really going to do any more than that. Of course, nobody from the monarchy is going to go and represent because it's too toxic to be an environment where Harry and Meghan are that. And if it moves to Birmingham, same thing. And even in Dusseldorf, Germany, the last time around, no other royal came. And here's the thing, the other royal families, they're close by. Denmark's pretty close. The Netherlands is pretty close. They could make their way to Dusseldorf and definitely be there. There was a reason that they weren't there, and that's not because they didn't want to support the troops, but that's because they can't support Harry and Meghan, and it can't look like they're getting too friendly with Harry and Meghan. And that's where the Invictus Games becomes ever more of a burden on itself by associating too close with Harry and Meghan. Because if Harry and Meghan are using this as a springboard to really try to be these statespeople, it's just not going to happen. Yes, it's a fantastic thing, but everybody recognizes it for what it is, which is a competition, a charity event essentially. And that's what it should remain. But you see, as Harry keeps trying to grow and grow it, I think inorganically, because I don't think it's retaining an audience. I don't think people are attending this thing. And you can't really have it support itself if nobody's going. I think it's sort of a rubber meets the road situation here where Harry is ever more going to find that nobody really wants to attend the Invictus Games. And it's not really generating this thing that it should. And that's partly because of him and partly just because I think the audience for it is rather limited. And it could help if you do have statespeople show up, but none of them are going to. So if Harry's going to use this avenue to maybe argue to other countries, hey, you should let us in because, we're representing the Invictus Games. Isn't it great? It's a multinational event with different competitors from all over the world. And sane countries should go, that's awesome. That's great. We'll send our troops there, but we're not hosting you. And it sounds like Harry and Meghan are really trying to make this tour around the world happen. We got the indication, and I covered it in another video with Harry's security case where he was talking about how, they needed this settled because they need to let other countries know how to treat them based on how the UK is treating them via security. And they want this massive security apparatus because they want to be treated as heads of state. They want that level of security, which they don't need. They're not heads of state. They don't have this authority or power. They don't even have this influence. I mean, think about it right now. How in the world can Harry and Meghan really influence anything? Yes, obviously they have a presence in social media, they have a presence online, but none of that presence is converting really when you think about it. It's not converting when it comes to watching Live to Lead or the Heart of Invictus. Nobody is watching those things. And so they can't even convert something. Vast majority of people do have Netflix accounts or connect to somebody to Netflix account. They can't get people to watch that. How can they get countries to maybe enact a better trade deal or something like that? They just can't do it. And so these trips, if they are going to happen, I just think are incredibly risky by the countries doing them because they could wreck their relationship with the UK potentially. And at the end of the day, they won't get anything out of it because Harry and Meghan, frankly, have absolutely nothing to offer. They have nothing to offer as William does. William can go to someplace, go to another country, and he has authority behind him. He has authority at the UK government and his father. And so when he's interacting with Justin Trudeau, yes, they're all part of the Commonwealth. William is essentially an arm of the head of state. So when he talks to Justin Trudeau, Trudeau also knows he's not just talking to William, but to his father, King Charles, and to the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak. He is talking to them too. And all of them know that. All of them know. Because yes, royals might seem superfluous to a lot of people. They do have the ear, though, of a lot of people of power too. And so it's a subtle power. It's a soft power. But Harry and Meghan's power isn't soft. It's sort of trying to it's a desperate power, desperate for attention, desperate for anybody to give them a smidge of accolades because they desperately need to feel important because they're not important. And there's nothing more desperate than people who are trying to seem like they are more important than they are. And so when just comparing Prince William at this event and comparing what Harry and Meghan tried to do in Nigeria, Harry and Meghan just look kind of pathetic in that process because they're not really there in any other capacity other than a self-promotional tour. And I think Harry and Meghan, as they continue to go forward, obviously we have two supposed Netflix shows on the docket, the cooking show of Meghan's or the lifestyle show and Harry's polo documentary. They really need to stop being cosplay royals. They need to stop trying to get all the security apparatus and everything because they need to feel so important. What they need to do is actually work. They need to create jobs. They need to create something because here's the thing too. Bill Gates has a lot of authority, you could say, in the world. Why? Because he built Microsoft. And that power and that level of money in the billions has a lot of influence. Same with Elon Musk. What was interesting too is Elon Musk was asked one time, well, you could use that 6 billion of your $30 billion fortune or 600, or I don't know how much he's worth right now. You could use some of that money to help the World Food Program and end poverty, food poverty. And Elon's like, well, haven't they been trying to do that for decades and it hasn't worked? So how is my billions going to help anything? It's not, because most is food insecurity. Sometimes it is actually natural disaster, but oftentimes it's actually a man-made situation. And usually there's a man-made component to it, instability or government regulations, a variety of things. And so food instability can oftentimes be relegated to actually human interference, not actually nature. Anyways, why I say that is because they have such money, they have power and influence. And Harry and Meghan, though, they don't have that. As far as we know, the biggest donation Archibald has ever gotten is $10 million. And that was probably from Harry and Meghan. It was a way for them to donate and utilize those funds to continue their foundation so that they can get the tax write-off for it and yada, yada, yada. I mean, and there's nothing necessarily super wrong with that idea. But $10 million compared to maybe $10 billion, 100 times difference, if not more. Harry and Meghan just can't compete at that level. The level of money that they have is not going to move and shake things. But if they actually worked hard, if they actually created decent careers in Hollywood, they just might actually have a surprising level of influence. Because people like Steven Spielberg, George Lucas, they still have influence because they were great creatives that created powerful media that we still consume to this day. Harry and Meghan have done none of that. None of their projects have even been influential. Harry and Meghan didn't result in anything influential except for a lot of eyes on it, and people like them less. Harry's memoir also tarnished their legacy continually as well. Then you also have Lid to Lead, which did nothing, absolutely nothing. That was a I just thought of this, and I do apologize because I try not to use this kind of language, but it was kind of a fart in the wind. Don't really say that kind of thing, but it's so true. It was a fart in the wind. Nobody cared. And Heart of Invictus, nobody watched that thing. And the whole purpose of Heart of Invictus should have been is to be an advertisement for the Invictus games to get more people to watch the Invictus games. And yes, there were still some more people, you could argue, that watched the Invictus games via its YouTube channel. But I think at the end of the day, it didn't really have the conversion it should have because nobody watched it. And so if nobody's watching and consuming their content, if they can't even have influence with their content, except for give people like me more fodder for them, then they're failing miserably. Because if they want to be these statespeople, and I really truly think they do, we've had all these rumors about Meghan wanting to be president, which is a total delusional fantasy on her part if that's true. But if that's true, she has these massive aspirations, but she's missing the key components. Number one, she left and had Harry leave. The one thing that made them actually influential, because if Harry and Meghan were still part of the royal family, they would have been part of one of those D-Day events, I'm sure. Might have been something in the UK, but they would have been part of it because they have actual influence, because they were part of something greater than themselves. They are the left hand of the king. So right hand usually, which is dominant, the right hand of the king is William. The left hand should have been Harry. And now it's Anne because Harry left. So Harry's lost all that. So they left the actual one thing that gave them power. And then the other thing they did, which is also just absolutely crazy when you think about it, is that they haven't even done enough in Hollywood to have any influence there. Yes, their name still moves things and everything, but if they want to have this global influence, if they want to have the Archwell Foundation even remotely compete with the Gates Foundation, they have to be putting in a whole heck of a lot more hours than they are right now. They can't just rest on their laurels. In fact, I think they don't even work that much. They always strike me as a little bit lazy, and I haven't been proved wrong on that yet. So Harry and Meghan have a lot of work to do. And if they really want to be a statesman like William, A, they should have played their cards so much differently than they did. But B, they've entered a new life now. They can no longer rely on royalty to make people pay attention to them. What they need to do is actually create something great, create an influential television show, movie, create something, maybe a documentary if they can muster up how to do that. Although I don't think cooking nor polo is the way to go. So Harry and Meghan at this point, they're sort of kind of stuck in this endless loop of failure. And trying and attempting to be cosplay royals, attempting to be statesmen, they only end up looking like fakesmen. So, guys, let me know what you think of this video. Let me know what you think of sort of the statesman comparison between William and Harry. I'll definitely be doing more about that in my upcoming video, The Crown Report. So, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I shall see you soon. Bye.